Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's only been 2 days since I posted my video talking about the sad decline of Alton Towers, and I'm really surprised by just how much interest there's been in the video. I think it shows just how much care and love people have for the park, and also how many people want to see Alton Towers succeed again and be right up there at the top of what it's doing. Now the video in 48 hours has had over 100,000 views and well over 1,000 comments, and thank you to everyone that shared their experiences and thoughts down below in the comments. I really do appreciate it. And I think it just shows how many people really do care for the park, just like I do. I wanted to make the video a couple of days ago just to kind of highlight all these different issues and just, you know, how it's declined over that period of time. But also I'd always had a plan to film a second video to talk about what I would do if I was in charge to fix the park. And I think it's only right that I do that, you know, sharing the things that I don't think they've done very well, things that have declined over the years. But also, what would I do to actually fix it? I don't want to be one of them people that's just saying, oh, they're not doing this very good, but not actually have an idea of what to do, or at least a concept of what I would do. So that's what this video is all about. I'm going to talk about what I would do if I owned Alton Towers, a realistic 5-year plan for the park. Now, when I say realistic, this isn't going in saying, oh, I'll build massive new roller coasters every year and make loads of changes to existing rides. It's more of a realistic plan what I'd do over 5 years. Now, the reason that I've picked 5 years is because, of course, in 5 years' time, Universal Studios will be opening a park here in the UK. It's going to be almost ready for completion, and they've got 5 years basically to completely turn around the guest experience at Alton Towers, in my opinion, because they really need to. And I think when you see how many people were interested in this subject and have watched this video, and also shared a lot of similar thoughts to mine, it really shows how severe this actually is and how much change is really needed at the park to bring it forward. So let's get into it. This is my 5-year plan, what I would do. Now, of course, the plan that I'm talking about here does require major investment by Merlin Entertainment, or if another company was to buy the park and take it on. This is what I would feel would fix a lot of the major issues with the park with this realistic plan. It does include new rides and attractions, but also it's about thinking about the overall experience of the park and also what it's missing compared to other theme parks out there around the world. So here we go. Let's get straight into this one then. 2027 is where I'm going to start this, and we'll go through to 2031, which is the expected opening year of Universal Studios Great Britain, and kind of what I'd do in that time between now and then. So the first thing I would do for 2027 would be an overhaul of the brand. Now, something that I've loved at Alton Towers for years is the logo. I think it's iconic. Yes, it's gone through a few little tweaks and changes over the years, but it definitely doesn't need to be fully changed. The logo is iconic. It's a staple. It's recognizable. Everybody loves it. They don't need to do a thought park on us here and change it to something what doesn't fit with the park at all, in my opinion. They should keep the logo the same. But what I mean with an overhaul of the brand is a new slogan, new TV adverts, a new style of marketing, a new way they kind of run their social media, just to try and turn it round into more of a magical place again. Back in the day, you had the old slogan where the magic never ends, and I'm not saying bring that back, because the park has got to move forwards. It can't always rely on nostalgia and what it had in the past, but it's got to look forwards, and some kind of new slogan, new TV adverts to just show that Alton Towers is moving forwards for a new generation to enjoy. Something else I would bring in would be new characters, new mascots, but also returning classics. Many people remember Henry Hound for reading a lot of your comments. I went through each and every comment and I really appreciated that. So thank you so much to everyone that dropped a comment on the video. And likewise with this one, I look forward to reading the comments and seeing what you think to my plan. Would you do things different or not? I'd love to know. But yeah, bringing back some iconic mascots. Henry Hound would be brilliant to see. Maybe even Henrietta as well, which would be good. Along with that, some of the old characters, Sir Algernon that used to appear at the Alton Towers Hotel and in the park for a little while in Cloud Cuckoo Land, Snorlax, the little purple dragon. Bring in, you know, maybe 5 or 6 characters that could be like the face of Alton Towers for families. Now, of course, you've got CBeebies Land at the park as well, and that would remain in my plan, but also working on some original ideas, some original characters would be great. And you see a lot of other parks do it. Drayton Manor also in the UK have started to do that the past few years with Rory and Laurie having the character shows, and just, you know, really start to bring them into the brand. I think would be nice to see. So a mix of new and returning classic characters. Now, the big investment for 2027 would be a complete overhaul of the arrival experience. We're talking all the way through from the monorail through to Tower Street, and that would be the main one for me. The monorail does need some major changes. Now, there was talks a few years ago that the actual trains were coming to the end of their life. Then I heard recently they had a bit of a refurbishment last winter, even though you can't tell from looking at them because they still look quite dirty and tired, but they actually did quite a lot of work to the actual maintenance of the ride behind the scenes, which is good to hear. What they need to do is either, if the trains can stay, completely refurbish them from the look of them, or if it needs new trains, I would put new trains on it to secure its future. I know there was quite a bit of talk of moving the entrance a few years ago. I wouldn't do that. I think the monorail is an iconic part of the park. It runs right through the heart of the park. It's one of the arteries of Alton Towers, and I think it's important to keep that, but also it builds up the atmosphere. All they need to do is completely replace the windows and take off like the vinyl cover so you can see out again and actually see the park as you approach him. Arriving onto the entrance plaza, I will completely refurbish that as well. It's never looked the same in my opinion since, well, 8 years ago now, and they took out the old ticket kiosks. What I would do there is put in maybe a new fountain, keep the corkscrew, completely repaint that, and just freshen up the entrance. Some new flagpoles on there like it used to have, they were removed. Update the middle tower entrance structure just so it, it looks really nice and classy as you make your way into the park. But yeah, redoing the security area as well would be great, just so it's not temporary tense, just so it looks the part as soon as you arrive. I feel like first impressions count, and that's what they really need to work on. And then of course, Tower Street itself would be a complete refurbishment of Tower Street. I'm talking removing the offices that are on the right hand side. Basically, a lot of the buildings on the right, it's all back of house. It used to be shops and restaurants and that sort of thing. It needs completely reimagining. So Towers trading's good on the left hand side, but the exterior needs completely reworking. On the right hand side, I'd redo the coffee shop. I'd maybe put in a new bakery, redo guest services so that can be more efficient. Maybe another shop on the right hand side based on all the characters that would be reintroduced that year as well. And yeah, just make Tower Street come alive. When you walk into a Disney park, Main Street USA is a magical, immersive experience, but really it's done like that, so you spend money. They're pumping out the smiles, the popcorn and candy floss, they're selling the balloons. That's what they need to turn Tower Street into, and that will generate a lot more cash if they can just make Tower Street this nice experience. At the end of the day, get the big restaurant back open that they've got down there, so people are coming out the park and will go to the restaurants, and even having it open at lunchtime as well. They used to do breakfast and all sorts, so opening the Towers Family Restaurant again, which is on the left hand side. Big overhaul of Tower Street, keeping the iconic frog fountains, but maybe some new planting in the middle, some new theming. And we're not talking like kind of tacky here. I'd probably go down a bit kind of, not full medieval style, but a bit like, the buildings like white and like wooden structures added to them, and go down a kind of British kind of street that would fit really nice with the towers down there at the bottom. I think that would be great. Something else I'd bring in would be an introduction of entertainment in 2027. I'd put in a new permanent stage in the Mutiny Bay courtyard, bring back a pirate show like that ran for many years. I think a pirate show would be a great addition again. And also as well, another new stage that I'd put in on Fountain Square, which would be a character stage show as well, based on the returning characters. So you see where I'm coming from. What we're doing in 27 here is completely realigning the brand, a new vision going forwards, and also bringing in characters and changing the arrival experience, just so it's a really nice kind of way of seeing the park. Along with that, a deep clean of the Tower's ruins, pressure washing them all again like they used to do, just to keep everything looking really nice. We're cleaning off of the towers, making it look really solid again. Some new historical plaques inside the towers so they could open them again, and also you could read the history of the ruins themselves, have them open on a daily basis and really thinking about the heritage. Along with that, just deep clean the rest of the park. Nothing else too major around the rest of the park. That's already a big investment, redoing the entrance. But yeah, just kind of general TLC, painting up of areas and making everything look nice and fresh, ready for the 2027 relaunch. The big change that I'd also then make would be to the opening hours. This was a big one that a lot of you spoke about in the comments, and yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. The opening hours are so off-putting. Gone would be the 4 o'clock closes, but also some realistic hours. I think for most of the season, outside of Halloween and fireworks, that sort of thing, I think 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. are good hours. I think opening until 5 o'clock on the very off-peak weekdays would be fine. Basically, the days that would normally be 4 o'clock that are very quiet, I'd have them at a 5, but in general, the hours would be 10 till 6. That puts it in line with a lot of other major parks around Europe that have them hours too. It's like Europa Park in Germany, they open 9 till 6, but then they'll extend if it's busy. I'm not really suggesting that at Alton Towers, but in terms of just a standard operating hours for most of the season, I think 10-6 would be great. In the summer, possibly 10-7, 10-8, depending on the year. I wouldn't kind of have early ride time and that sort of thing. I'd just go for a 10 o'clock opening, turnstiles opening at 9, like an hour before, so you can get into the park and explore around, which is kind of similar to what they do now. Along with that, the water park, I would completely change the hours. Now, I understand that maybe there's not the demand for the water park to open it 10 till 10 every day, but what I would do is switch the hours and open it in the afternoon from 2 p.m. through until either 8 or 9 p.m. So if you opened it till 8, that'd be like the 6-hour day that it normally opens for at this time, like throughout the season, other than when it's very busy in the summer. But I'd switch that so there's always something to do when the park closes and on an evening as well for hotel guests. But yeah, ideally extend it through until 9 o'clock, add the hour on just so there's a little bit of extra time. But if that wasn't possible, at least just shifting the hours so it would be a lot better opening hours for that, in my opinion. Along with that, the golf, I'd readjust the hours so that was also open at the same as the water park, more into the evening, so there's stuff to do for hotel guests. Something else I would do, if it hasn't already closed by then, is I would close off the World of David Walliams, the family area that, yeah, the IP is certainly not probably going to last much longer anyway. But yeah, I would close that area off completely, and I would close it actually from the Sky Ride all the way across to the driving school. That whole back area would be closed in preparation for 2028. So yeah, that's what I do for the first year. Sounds like a lot, but realistically, we're not putting in new rides here. We're freshening things up. We're having a new entrance, updated monorail, and changing the brand and the hours just to put it on a new step forward. New characters and entertainment straight away. Just doing that will make a big difference in Alton Towers, in my opinion. 2028 would be a new family area. Alton Towers already got some brilliant roller coasters, and a big part of this plan initially wouldn't be installing new coasters for me. It would be going around and doing other things. I think a new family area with a steampunk theme would be perfect. Now, of course, there's lots of different themes they could go for, but Alton Towers has got a lot of darker themes now. That never used to be the case. Bringing in some new lighter, more upbeat themes, and I think like a family steampunk theme would work really well. This would be to replace the World of David Walliams. We'd bring in Sir Algernon, the story behind the Alton Towers Hotel, which has got a bit of a travelling kind of steampunk theme. I'd bring that into the park, into this new land. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. You've also got your new characters that you introduced the year before on the stage on Fountain Square that you could bring into that land now and put in the theatre that already exists. You could reopen that theatre, which has just sat there, has been doing nothing for a long time now, like a decade. Get that back open again. Along with that, a re-theme for Gangster Granny. I'd keep the ride system, but put more of an in-house theme in with Alton Bear and some of the other characters. And along with that, a re-theme for the driving school as well. What I'd also do, we'll bring in a new tracked ride of some form. Of course, we've lost Postman Pat in CBeebies Land for the new Bluey coaster opening this year. So I'd put in a replacement for that, like a nice tracked ride, what could go round in that area. Possibly even utilising the same ride system as Postman Pat, just retheming the vehicles. And along with that, either 1 or 2 flat rides I think would be really nice. Smaller family flat rides that could go into that area as part of a big overhaul for 2028. So that would be the big project that I would do. Family area, mostly re-themes, but a couple of new little additions in there as well, and just reimagining that area with their own IP, I think would be perfect. Something else that I do on the side of that would be a track repaint for Galactica and also some additional theming. Nothing too much, because a lot of the big budget would have gone on the new family area, but just bringing Galactica in line with Forbidden Valley. This was actually supposed to happen in the actual plans last year, but did get cancelled, unfortunately. It was going to be done alongside Toxicator, and it would have all fit in really nice. But yeah, that did get cancelled. But that's what I would do for 2028 as well. Repaint Galactica and update the storyline. Go away from the space theme and fit it more in with that area of the park, Forbidden Valley, that I think is brilliant as it is, but the rest, that bottom end with Galactica really needs to fit with the rest of it to bring it in line. 2029, big focus will be down in X sector, of course home to Oblivion and the Smiler. What I'd do here is add in 2 new thrill flat rides. They used to have 2 down there, they were never replaced. I replaced Submission and Enterprise with 2 new flat rides. Now, what they would be, I'm not 100% sure what I'd go for. Possibly a Husk breakdance down there. I think that'd be nice undercover. Maybe a smaller pendulum ride could be dug into the ground, or something a little bit different. I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments, but 2 thrill flat rides. X sector should be a main thrill focus in my opinion, but also I would actually completely revitalise the storyline for the area, and that would bring in some new theming and a complete updated theming package and overhaul for the Smiler. Now, I'm not saying change the name or anything like that, but what I would do is add actual theming around the ride. You've got the Marmalizer, which is great, but completely rework that. The station building, the whole ride, it looks very tired round there. It needs a track repaint as well. Still keep it black, I think, but just completely refresh it all. I think by then, the X sector itself just really needs an overhaul. It does now, but especially in a couple of years' time, that needs to be the area of focus in my opinion. So a complete updated theming package for the Smiler and some new theming down there as well, along with the 2 new flat rides. Oblivion, I wouldn't change too much. It is iconic. I think it's a great ride. Obviously, at some point, it might need a bit of track replacement at the bottom of the drop. I'm not too sure. But luckily, it has got the big beefy box section B&M track on there. A lot thicker track than what Nemesis has. So, you know, maybe that won't need track replacement in the next few years. But what I would do is repaint Oblivion, and yeah, just refresh the area as well. Now, in addition to that, obviously, you know, you've got 2 flat rides for the thrill seekers. What I'd do is what the park used to do years ago, which would be put in a thrill edition and put in a family edition in the same year. We used to get that quite a bit back in the day. And if Merlin were willing to spend the money and the budget, then it's certainly possible. What I would do here is reimagine Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's building, the former Alton Towers dungeon, into a new dark ride that would again fit with the steampunk area. So you see where I'm going from this. We're going around refurbishing parts of the park, but the big focus would be on where David Walliams is now and that whole back section. And I'll come on to that later with what I do new coaster wise. That whole back area of the park could be a huge new land, expanded on the steampunk theme and going a little bit into space and the futuristic theme as well, that I'll come on to later. But yeah, I'd reimagine Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, probably keeping the boat ride system itself, but making it a full ride again. If you remember with Charlie, you used to get off the ride and then go into the lifts. I think it'd be nice to have a nice boat ride, high capacity, can run loads of boats. They can work again with the rides manufacturer, Mack Rides, and create something really special as part of that steampunk area that would have opened the year before. You know, this would be like a second edition to that. Just before we move into 2030, just want to say, hey, you're enjoying it so far. I really want to know your thoughts down below in the video comments. Do you like my ideas? Would you do something different? I'd be really interested to know. And bear in mind, these are just my ideas. There's no evidence that any of this is going to happen. It's just what I would do and what I think would fix Alton Towers based on my experience of visiting theme parks for many, many years and traveling all around the world, seeing parks and different things. You may have noticed there's been no new roller coaster editions so far, and that's because I feel like Alton Towers, with 11 coasters that it's going to have this year after Bluey, has got a really good solid selection of coasters. Yes, we're crying out for a new one as well, but there's other things that need to be done first before a new coaster comes in, and that's where we come to in 2030. That would be the next new coaster I would build. Over these years here, we've been fixing areas, we've been bringing in new dark rides, new flat rides, reimagining the entrance, bringing in entertainment, changing the operating hours, and bringing in new food and beverage would be a big thing throughout this as well. That's something that I haven't really touched on here, but of course, bringing in new food and beverage would be a big part of this throughout. Updating the menus, updating where you can dine, new restaurants and things as well would be a huge part of reimagining the experience of Alton Towers. For 2030, this will be bringing in finally a new coaster, and that will be Project Horizon. I'll bring it back in. Now, this, of course, is the plans for a new indoor coaster, actual plans, not my speculation. A few years ago, they put in an application to build an indoor ride, which we knew was going to be an indoor roller coaster behind the world of David Walliams. Now, at the time, that was going to be, if it had gone ahead, a completely separate area. It wasn't going to be kind of affiliated with the areas in front of it. You go down one pathway, one way in, one way out. It'd be its own new area, an expansion onto part of the park that's not been used in a very long time. What I would do is bring their plans back, but kind of change up what I would do with it. Of course, I'd go for the indoor roller coaster idea. I think that would fit with our climate and the lineup very well at Alton Towers. But again, I'd bring that in to like an extended section of the steampunk theme. So you've got your family area, you know, like what's David Walliams' area now. That whole area rethemed to steampunk. You've got your new dark ride as well that came in. Now we're adding like the final piece of the puzzle, and that would be kind of going down, surrounding on, you know, traveling to space, kind of going into the space theme. Alton Towers always had quite a fascination with space themes. It all goes back to the black hole back in the day, the indoor coaster, then into Galactica 10 years ago and the VR and everything. You believe that's been 10 years this year. So it's one of them, isn't it? You've got to think of, you know, space is a big part of the history of Alton Towers and what people love. They used to have a planetarium back in the day. So I would bring in the space theme, but tie it in with the steampunk area as well. Kind of, you know, a second part to that area. And that would be an Intamin coaster indoors. I think that would work brilliantly. I'm still hoping Horizon happens at some point, but as I've mentioned, there's other issues here that definitely need fixing first before we start thinking about putting in new roller coasters. And I do think that is one of the reasons why Horizon never got off the ground, or hasn't yet, because they've been trying to fix at least some of the issues. As much as they haven't done everything that they need to, they've started to fix some issues, you know, at least bringing Intoxicator, a flat ride, and a few other bits here and there, you know, even though, as you can see, there is still a lot more what does need to be done to really do this full revitalisation of Alton Towers and what I would do to change it all. But yeah, bringing that in 2030 would be the big thing. And also a full closure that year of Dark Forest. I would actually close off the area. Now, by that point, you've got to think we've added a lot of new capacity, a lot of new flat rides, a new major dark ride. We could go without that full themed area in 2030, in my opinion, for a reimagining. So I'd actually close off the area completely because of what I'd be doing to open in 2031, which of course is the expected opening year of Universal Studios Great Britain. This will be the biggest part of the project, as I'll come on to in a moment. But yeah, so opening a new indoor coaster as part of the wider steampunk area with the space theme, and closing off Dark Forest. We're not talking at the end of the season. Full closure of Dark Forest in 2030. Boards off, areas fully closed, because that is going to be completely reimagined into something a little bit more magical. Now, Alton Towers has got a lot of darker themes. It's something that, you know, they've got too many of. In my opinion, you know, you've got Gloomy Wood, which is a great little haunted area. You've got the dark ride there, the Curse of Alton Manor. Love that. Of course, Forbidden Valley is quite dark, but still, it's great. Even X-Sector Store is quite dark, isn't it? You know, so I think replacing Dark Forest and making it more of a magical forest would be great. And we're going kind of, obviously not to this extent, because I want to keep it realistic here, but imagine more of like a budget version of Pandora, the world of Avatar at Disney's Animal Kingdom. We're talking plants coming alive, magical kind of, not like floating mountains, not like a knockoff Avatar, but that kind of theme, that style, like a fantasy forest kind of area. There we go, that's the area name, Fantasy Forest. Something like that would be fantastic. So obviously we're in the trees down there anyway, but what we're actually doing, we're going to rip out Rita, completely remove Rita. That might actually happen in the next few years anyway, you know, with that kind of ride type coming to the end of its life. But I would remove Rita. 13, I would strip back a lot of the theming, but what I would do is reimagine 13 into more of a fantasy, magical, fairy tale kind of theme. At the end of the day, it's a family coaster. It should never have had a horror theme put on there, in my opinion. So what I would do is make that more of a fantasy sign of ride. Maybe you're going in and still have the whole idea of maybe, you know, oh, you're in the forest and you're going into this kind of building, but instead of it being like a haunted crypt, completely changing that up to something a bit more kind of family friendly to fit with the actual ride system. I'd also add in a couple of new flat rides, probably one thrill and one family. I won't go into the details of exactly what I'll put in because, you know, there's a lot on the market. It depends on budgets and that sort of thing. But yeah, a couple of flat rides would be perfect down in that area as well, a thrill in a family. And then also the main event, which will be a major new roller coaster, which is replacing Rita, and that will be another Intamin coaster, an Intamin LSM coaster, Maverick style, you know, low to the ground terrain. Alton Towers can't build above the tree line. They're never going to be able to, and that's fine. That adds to it, in my opinion, the magic and the mystery behind it. But yeah, like, imagine something terrain style. Yeah, the coaster would probably go maximum like 40 foot high, but airtime hills, very terrain hugging, going around this kind of magical fantasy forest, which I think would be an absolutely brilliant addition. And yeah, that would be the biggest investment here out of this 5-year plan, 2031, you know, because you reimagine in 13, you're removing Rita, you're putting in the new Intamin and a couple of flats. But I feel like, you know, that would be an amazing addition for 2031 and their way of kind of fighting back in a way against what's going to be opening Universal Studios down in Bedford here in the UK. But there you go. That's my 5-year plan. That's what I do at Alton Towers. Now, of course, you know, this doesn't involve millions and millions of pounds, huge investments, but bear in mind, Merlin is a big company. They own over 100 attractions around the world, multiple big theme parks, and they're not slowing down with international expansion. In the past few years, they've opened a brand new Legoland theme park in Korea, ground up park, completely brand new. Along with that, they opened a ground up park, another Legoland park in Shanghai, China. They're currently building a couple more Legolands in China as well. There's certainly money there at Merlin, but it's been spent internationally. And this all goes back to my Merlin Entertainments video I did a couple of months ago. Watch that if you haven't already, because these 3 videos are all kind of linked together in that way, these 3 deep dives. But yeah, like I feel like this is a realistic plan. Even if all of this, you know, you don't have to do every single part of this, but for me, one of the most important parts of this, what would fix the park, would be what I'd do in 2027. I think bringing in new entertainment, new characters, reimagining of Tower Street and the entrance, and a bit of a magical rebrand would really help the resort and bring it forward. And then going through these different steps, and even if, you know, even if funds couldn't stretch to do this in 5 years, if even spreading that out over, you know, 7 or 8 years would be fantastic and really benefit the park in the future. Of course, these are just my ideas. Let me know your thoughts down below in the video comments. Realistically, is any of that going to happen? I highly doubt it, but you never know. I've done a few of these videos in the past, and it's quite funny. I did like my wish list and predictions for Alton Towers video about 5 years ago, something like that now, 5-6 years ago, and quite a lot of what I said in that video did actually end up happening. So I don't think it's going to happen with this, but you never know, we'll see. And if anyone's watching from Merlin or Alton Towers, feel free to use any of my ideas. I appreciate the fact you've watched it. I'm sure that a lot of people have, because it's one of them. It's a big subject, and I think it shows with how many people watched the previous video, how many people have love, care and attention for that park, but also are sad with the current state that it's in and want to see it succeed. But there we go. I'll leave this one there. I've spoke a lot about it all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and get out there and keep on riding. Bye everyone.